Bismillah, in this part of the video, we're going to explore how to develop AtAs, Assessment Learning. This is based on Muller 2018. So there are three particular steps. I simplify into three particular steps. The first one is to identify the standards. Okay, identify the standards of a particular task. So what should students know and able to do? So basically this relates with the course learning outcome. Okay, so what is actually the goal, okay, that you actually want to achieve? What is the standard of the course that you are actually aim to achieve by using ATAS? So what should students need to know and able to do? So identify the learning outcome, then followed by selecting the authentic task in order to make sure that the authentic task helps, okay, to achieve the standard that is actually defined in step number one there. So what should students do to show they can achieve the standards that is actually mentioned in step number one, or the one of the course learning outcome that you target to achieve. And then after you select an authentic task, then you create a rubric to determine how to know if the task is done well or not, so that you may have a guide to somehow determine whether the task is done well or if the task is done not so well. So you should also consider an extra note here when doing the rubric, when making the rubric. Also consider non-cognitive elements too, such as the testing of soft skills and well-being, like for example, how they manage their emotion, how they manage their teamwork, how they manage themselves, right? So these are non-cognitive elements that should also be considered when creating rubrics of the assessment there. Here's an example. So let's say one of the CLO of a particular course is students can apply psychological concepts to solve daily life problems. So this is mentioned as a CLO, course learning outcome, in a course. So this is a target. So this is the standard that a lecturer wants to achieve from the course, and from that standard, then an authentic task is selected. Okay, so the lecturer will start to think of what kind of task, okay, that reflects what the professionals actually do, okay, at the same time achieving this particular learning outcome. So implement a workable, so the task identified here in order to achieve the learning outcome above here, okay, is that the lecturer design whereby students need to implement a workable solution using psychological concept to a problem faced by a society. So professionals in this field, let's say psychologists, actually do this in real life, meaning to say that they find social problems, okay, or companies hire them, okay, and give them problems, and they are required to use psychological knowledge to actually solve the problem. Okay, so this is what the professionals actually do in the particular field there. Okay, so the task, okay, required for students to do is that they need to find a problem faced by the society, and then they are required to use psychological concepts learned in the course to actually solve the problem. So this is the authentic task, okay, required for them to do. Okay, and then after that, the lecturers would then create rubrics, okay, on the relevance of their problem and the evidence that the problem exists, and then the quality of the solution, whether the solution really reflect or really help solve the problem, and also the CLO, which is also important there, very important there, meaning to say that in the rubric also have elements of application of psychological knowledge, whether the psychological knowledge is actually correct, okay, is a correct application or not, and etc. there. So those are the elements in the rubric. Okay, remember also last time I mentioned that also consider non-cognitive element. So this is a particular authentic task, okay, project in which they work in group. Okay, so in the rubric also you can also appreciate okay, teamwork skills, for example, how they manage to solve the problem. So they need to deal with real people. They need to approach, okay, NGOs, or approach people with having this problem. Okay, and you can also appreciate in terms of their adab, okay, their adab in approaching people, their professionalism, and etc. there, but with a minimal mark, okay, with a minimal mark. Or you can also do it, assess it formatively, okay, if it is not mapped with the PLO. We still can appreciate the non-cognitive elements, okay, but through consultation, okay, when they submit to you draft what they are going to do, you can give feedback. Okay, you should be writing this email like this with proper adab and etc. So that's integrated in the instruction of the authentic task. Okay, but if it is mapped to the PLO of ethics and professionalism, you should reward some marks in the particular rubric. So this is one example of a simple example of developing authentic assessment. So recap again, okay, from the course learning outcome to selecting the authentic task, okay, and then creating the rubric to determine whether, okay, what are the criteria to determine whether the task is done well and not so well. So these are the three steps of developing AtAs.